Welcome back. This is a new recording session. Last session I only managed to get around 4 episodes done, and it's actually been kind of a long gap between this. But I hope to actually get pretty close to the end of this game, or even finish this game in this session, possibly. I don't know. But then my first session was only like an hour long, so, well, an hour and a bit. This one's probably going to be quite a bit longer, so we'll see.
Hey, at last, a good piece of news.
Anyway, so we are continuing to the next part. We got 150 lums, which isn't really that many. 400 this time. Yeah, it'll be fine. Don't actually know how many lums I've got. Probably like 200 maybe? Yeah, already halfway there. Won't be a problem. Right. Let's go into this. So, the first thing I want to talk about really in this is that I have a very strange problem. I'll call it a problem. When it comes to playing games. So, first of all, I would say I'm quite open to playing a lot of types of games, like, in most, pretty much any genre I can find a game that I like, probably. Simulation's probably a bit harder for me. I'm not a huge fan of simulation games, but I'm not going to completely dismiss them, apart from the ones that clearly aren't actually simulators, and have just stuck the name simulator on. But, yeah, so, since I am quite open to kind of playing pretty much any games, I have a lot of games on Steam. I have quite a few on other consoles as well, but nowhere near as many on Steam. But on Steam, I have like 560 games. Could even be more by the time I upload this. But the main reason is, damn it! I want to get that lump. So the main reason I actually have that many is mostly from Humble Bundle. I had been subscribed to the Humble Monthly, so every month I was getting like 5 to 7 games, which is a decent amount. And I would say it was worth the money. I've unsubscribed from it now, not because like the games are bad or anything, just because I want to save some money, because I don't have a job, so I don't really get a lot of money. Anyway, so I have a lot of games, and you'd think that would be a good thing, but the problem with what I have is that the more games I have, the harder it makes it for me to actually play games. Like, to actually go ahead and play one. Oh, what? Why did that... I don't know. So, that may seem really weird, but basically, if I have a bunch of games, I will then feel like I need to play all of them, and then not play any of them. I'm not really sure why, and I've had this pretty much almost the same thing happen to me very recently, which I'm going to get onto now, is that now it's been like it was a week ago almost, since, well, by the time this is uploaded it will be a lot longer than that, but about a week ago from now I installed custom firmware on my 3DS, which, if anyone who's watching has actually done it, will know that it's kind of a lengthy process, but it's not really too difficult to actually carry out the process of doing it. Definitely a lot harder than stuff like PSP, which custom firmware on PSP is very easy to install. But yeah, so I got custom firmware on my 3DS, and that allows you to do quite a lot of things, including install, you know, any 3DS games you want, pretty much, and also inject ROMs for the Virtual Console. So the 3DS has Game Boy and Game Boy Color and NES and Game Boy Advance and Sega Game Gear Virtual Console, and the new 3DS has SNES, but I don't have a new 3DS. If I did, I'd be able to get SNES as well, but you can inject ROMs into the Virtual Console, which means you can get pretty much any game, although there are some incompatibilities because the Virtual Console isn't perfect as an emulator, but you can pretty much get any ROM you like on your 3DS. So if you want to get like either a ROM hack or just a game that isn't available on the Virtual Console, then you can do that. So let's say you want to get, I don't know, one of the Pokemon games like Gold, Silver, or Crystal, but that's not on the eShop. You can do that with custom firmware. So, oh, of course, yep. So that's some of the things you can do, but there are other things you can do since you can use pretty much anything, install anything you like. There's a lot of homebrew apps, so you can get things like an FTP server, so you can access your files on your 3DS from your computer remotely. Why wasn't I? Not sure what I was doing there, but it worked out. So yeah, you can access files remotely. You can get what else can you get? I'm trying to think. Oh right, save manager. So you can back up your saves, which you can't do in the standard 3DS. You can even get the saves from your cartridges. So if you want, I don't know, let's say you're playing a Pokemon game. Pokemon games only have one save slot. You can export your save file and then start a new game, like delete the save file from the cartridge, and then make a new game, and then you could export that save, and now you've got two saves, and you can import the old one, and now you've got that save back. So that's very cool.
I need some life potion.
But I just basically, I put a 32 gig SD in my 3DS, which is pretty good for a 3DS because, well, depends on the games really. I mean, a lot of 3DS games aren't even a gig, so it's you can get a pretty good amount of games, and of course, like Game Boy games are like tiny. Like even GBA games are what, like 16 megabytes at max, so there might be some 32 meg ones, but yeah, so those are small. But the big 3DS games, you know, you've got like Pokemon. The new Pokemon games, Sun and Moon, are like 3 gigs, which is like pretty big for a 3DS game. I think the biggest one I've seen is Bravely Default, which is 3.2. Even the second game, Bravely Second, is like 2.8 gigs, I think. But the best thing about custom firmware is that the online will work fine with these games, so you can get a Pokemon game and go online, no problem, as if you got the legit game. Of course, this does allow you to get hacked Pokemon, and yes, we are at the best level in this game, in my opinion. I mean, it has... Really? I just missed that. It has the coolest music, and the coolest visual style, and everything. Yeah, so 3DS stuff. You can hack in Pokemon. That is something you can do. You can cheat, but you don't have to, obviously. And what I've used it for is actually to transfer my Pokemon from the old games, because first of all, transferring the Pokemon from like Platinum and Pearl, which are the two older games I have, you can't directly transport them to the 3DS games, unlike Black and White and Black and White 2. I don't think you can do it with Heart Gold or Soul Silver, which means you have to trade over your Pokemon with another DS or 3DS, and then you can that takes ages. Trading takes forever because you have to do it one at a time, and yeah. Well, I think transferring Pokemon from Pearl and Platinum to Black and White, you can do like 6 at a time or something stupid. And it takes ages as well. So with a save editor, I just basically copied all of my Pokemon over to it. So that's really cool. And you could even get your save file for the GBA games and transfer those over. Not sure about the original Game Boy games, but the other advantage is that you can get a free Pokemon bank, which, is great because you don't have to pay for just storing your Pokemon. And the thing is, like, I think Pokemon Bank would be worth more money if it's stored it, like, online. So if you lost, like, because if you transfer your Nintendo ID to a new 3DS, your Pokemon Bank is lost, like, all the Pokemon in there. Luckily, when I did it, there wasn't anything in there, so yeah, all your Pokemon are lost. So what's the point? Like, I thought that would be a good idea. Just have your Pokemon online on a, like, backup, so then if you do lose, I don't know, maybe your save data or your 3DS, at least you'll still have your Pokemon. But anyway, that's... Oh, yeah, so there's... The other thing you can do that is very nice is that you can make the original DS flashcards work on the 3DS, because they don't work usually. And if you don't know what a flashcard is, it's basically a cartridge, like a normal cartridge for different things. You can get them for DS, you can get them for Game Boy Advance and even original Game Boy, and probably other systems. But they're basically just cartridges that usually have like have built-in things, and they have a micro SD slot usually. I don't know about maybe older ones, probably have different stuff in it, but this camera angle is glorious. So the DS flashcards, they have micro SD slots, so you put in a micro SD, and then you need the right firmware and thingies, the files basically for it to work, and then you boot up the DS, and it will load the cartridge, and you can put DS ROMs on the micro SD, and you'll be able to play DS games. So with this working on the 3DS, you can get a bunch of DS ROMs on a separate micro SD, so you can save space for 3DS stuff, and play pretty much any DS game as well as 3DS games and GBA and Game Boy. And luckily, even if you don't have a new 3DS, you can play SNES games, because there is an emulator for 3DS, SNES 9X, which is on a lot of systems. SNES 9X is... pretty sure there's an Android SNES 9X, and it's on Windows. And yeah, but it runs pretty well. The games I've tried all run at 60 FPS pretty much all the time, so I don't think the compatibility is quite as good, like for the games that use the special chips in the cartridges don't work, I don't think. But things like Super Metroid worked fine, and Super Bomberman, Donkey Kong Country, what else did I try? Super Mario All-Stars, that works fine, and Super Mario World, so those work good. I don't know about anything else, but you know, there's, I think like Super Mario RPG doesn't work, but that's one I can think of that doesn't. But it's not too bad, and if you do have a new 3DS, then you can get SNES games and in the Virtual Console. And also, GBA emulation is better, because there's MGBA for 3DS, but it runs awfully on the old 3DS. But it does run fine on a new 3DS. Which does make me want to get a new 3DS, because the only problem with the GBA Virtual Console is that it wasn't designed for a lot of the games, so any games with real-time clocks don't work, which is annoying. So Pokemon with the time-based stuff doesn't work. I imagine with MGBA it would, because MGBA is a pretty good GBA emulator. I'd say it's probably the best, because it supports a lot of things. Anyway, so that's basically 3DS. Oh my god, 3DS hacking stuff is pretty cool. Another thing you can do on the new 3DS is actually stream your 3DS's what's the word? Video to your PC, so you don't need a capture card. You can't do it on the old 3DS, unfortunately. If you could, I'd probably do a 3DS game Let's Play, but I can't. So yeah, that is. If I ever do get a new 3DS, I possibly will do one. Of course, I might do, if Citra, the 3DS emulator, is good enough for my PC at least, then I could possibly do a Let's Play through emulation. But it would be nice to actually play the games on a 3DS, as like it is usually better, especially with Nintendo stuff with their gimmicks. It's definitely nicer to use the actual original stuff they're designed for. Of course, like PS1 emulation, I'm using a PlayStation 3 controller. It's like exactly the same, pretty much. And I could get a PS1 controller USB adapter, but no point. 3DS, 3DS controller. PS3 controller is pretty much perfect. Of course that didn't hit. Oh my god. I'm gonna die. There we go. We have these coloured orbs. Lovely. I don't know if I've missed any lumps. I hope I haven't. So, we are at pretty much near the end of this level. There's just this rather spooky sequence. And then the kind of boss fight.